To be here on time today. Thank you for coming, and I'm very happy that Mark Jones is here today. Mark is one of the original clients of the incubator. He's an entrepreneur and has gotten very interested in funding for early stage companies. And he's got a few very influential partners that are in the space that he's going to be talking about today, and funding for early companies, crowdfunding. So happy to have you there, Mark.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad that you folks took the time out to be here to hear what I have to say today about crowdfunding. It's a very interesting time in this country for early stage capital formation, and I would like to kind of get an idea of those of you that are in the room that are looking to fund a company in, say, the next 6 months. So we have a few folks here. Yeah. So what I'm going to do then is based on the number of needs that I kind of see, right? Immediate needs. I'm going to kind of adjust my presentation today for those of you that have immediate needs. Because the good news is that crowdfunding at some point will become available for all of you. That's the exciting news. The question remains as to when it'll become available. And if you, I can tell you that the workload that the SEC has in front of it will not more than likely have crowdfunding available as a usable legal platform anytime within 2013. I really and truthfully believe that before you're going to be able to use crowdfunding as a method of raising capital will in fact be 2014. What the International Crowdfunding Association is an organization of people that have come together, world-class businesses that have established a guideline that they want to keep good people like yourself sitting here in the audience today from getting in bad trouble through no fault of your own by running afoul of the securities laws that are going to be governing crowdfunding. And what the International Crowdfunding Association, I cannot advance the PowerPoint. I happen to be chairman of the International Crowdfunding Association, and what you're going to see throughout this presentation is Sprowtt. And Sprowtt, there we go. I'll just show you how to use this. Should I use the? I'll use this. I just advance it. It's okay. I just advance it. Okay. I just do it this way. It technically look challenged. I'm chairman of the International Crowdfunding Association, and I want to just give you a quick little Dun & Bradstreet about myself before I go into all of what I'm saying. My background is that I have had several early stage companies. Well, I was the second incubator company in this building, a company that was Pixel Wizard, ended up merging with Intelligent Inc. It is a nanotechnology company. We can print on three-dimensional substrates, and that is a very unique value proposition because we do it with true photographic dyes. What ended up spinning out of that company was a imaging device to project these images, and that was a company called Ecinema Networks, and that company is still very in existence. And today we have a huge Chinese partner called HiWi, and we are on track to do 3,000 movie screens throughout the world. The very interesting thing about this is that as an early stage incubator company in this building, in fact, the second one ever to sign a lease in this building, was that the recurring theme was, okay, we're in here now. We are this premier showcase company. We're in the Bay. Where's the money following? Where are the VCs? They're not coming through the building. They're not looking for these early stage opportunities. We all certainly need money to advance. And as more and more companies came into the building, that theme grew bigger and bigger because the need for capital really increased, significantly increased. A lot of frustration. So at a level of frustration grew, I actually broke off and got involved with the legislature in how do we fix this problem? How can we advance this early stage capital formation in the state of Florida? And how do we get these companies funded? At the time, one of the people in Governor Bush's office made, and at the time Bush Jr. was the president, suggested that I interface more closely with the SEC and got me in touch with some people there, and I participated in numerous early stage capital formation groups at the SEC by invitation. As these groups met, I looked around the room and I seen there were a tremendous amount of attorneys and very few entrepreneurs. And the attorneys had a way about saying things, and one day I was in there and I said, hey, can I don't mean to interrupt, I don't mean any disrespect, but has anybody in this room ever raised any money? And no hands went up. There's an awful lot of guys in there that are prepared to documents for the entrepreneur to raise the money. But I'm talking about really going out and looking for investors. And so none of them had, and so I think at that point there was kind of a little bit newfound respect for me in the room, and somebody said, I suggest we listen to Mark a little bit more on some of these things. And so as we proceeded to talk about policy and where things were going, and this is, I'm going back now almost 4 to 5 years, this is well in advance of crowdfunding. We were talking about things like the general solicitation of 506, which I'm going to talk a little bit about today, Regulation A, which I'm going to talk a bit about today. And about 2 years ago, somebody was in the room, another entrepreneur, and for the very first time ever, this word crowdfunding came up. And an awful lot of necks snapped back at the Securities and Exchange Commission, said, well, we don't have anything to do with this crowdfunding thing, but little did they know that it was going to be put in their lap 24 months later, from a legal perspective. So as we all look at this and we say, okay, so where's the opportunity today for your company to get funded? And what's going to be best for me? And so today, even though the crowdfunding isn't legally available, I'm going to give you some things to think about on which security you may want to use for your company, because from an entrepreneurial standpoint of where you want to go, it's a very different legal, it's completely different than the legal structure, because sometimes those things collide. Your attorney's going to say, hey, let's maybe we should go on this. And an entrepreneur is saying, no, I see myself selling this company. No, I see myself staying and running this company. That really determines an awful lot about which security you may use. And crowdfunding, in the end, may not be the right platform for you to go raise your money based on your long-term strategy of what you want to do with your company. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about crowdfunding and then loop back around with some of these titles. And then at the end of the call, Matt Romney, from the Romney Leggages, he's going to call. I'm going to put him on the phone. And Matt is an attorney, he's a world-class securities attorney, represents, as you can imagine, numerous VCs, and he represents numerous entrepreneurs, independent of VCs, and he's going to be available to answer your questions. And take your questions and talk to you a little bit about how he sees as the current climate for early stage capital. And so let me talk to you a little bit about how to raise your capital legally, because you may not be doing it right now. Right now, for example, there are numerous crowdfunding sites that are out there. You cannot today go out on the internet and solicit for funds on any of these crowdfunding platforms if in the event you intend to offer them any sort of stock, okay? All right, now I am not an attorney, I'm not giving you legal advice, I am giving you practical advice, okay? And it is the truth. You cannot go and do a crowdfunding today in exchange for equity. Additionally, what you can tell you is that you want to, three things you want to avoid to keep you out of trouble and maybe even out of jail is that when you start talking to people about investing in your company, you want to make sure they're accredited investors. You don't want to be soliciting people that may not have the financial sophistication, which, you know, they just don't understand the investment. Two, they're not financially accredited, they're living paycheck to paycheck, they have no savings. You certainly don't want to be taking money from those sorts of people. And most importantly, you don't want to run general solicitation ads right now. That is very illegal. You cannot publicly advertise to solicit funds. It's just not there yet. It's coming, but don't do it. And in a sense, identify the most likely investor for your very own type of company and capital needs. And so what we start talking about there is as crowdfunding becomes legalized, as today a 506 offering document, a private placement document is completely legal, so is Regulation A. There are people that are going to resonate with your idea, with you, that are in your space, that understand your space, that you happen to have your business in. Those are the most likely people that you want to solicit. Now, when crowdfunding does become legal, you will be able to attract very drilled down databases that are very specific to the industry that you happen to operate your business in, that people will have an affiliation to want to invest in. The only regulation-approved platform to help you raise money legally, there's several of these platforms such as Kickstarter, Indiegogo, but they're donation-based platforms. Today, I can tell you that Sprowtt is in the midst of getting a no-action letter to become one of these platforms. Additionally, AngelList and Funders Club recently got no action letters to allow you to raise money over the internet through their organization. However, it's only accredited investors. They're doing it. I don't know all the particulars of what their due diligence fees are, what they're going to charge you, but you have to be sure. I mean, there are people out there today that are launching these crowdfunding platforms, and they are not legal to accept equity. Remember that. If they're offering you the opportunity, and the word investor is in there today, for a crowdfunding offering, it is not legal. It is not legal. And in a true sense, if you look at a 506 offering today, you could say, and I want to back up, and do people know what I mean when I say 506? That's a private placement offering. That is a offering in which private placement, you can have your lawyer prepare a private placement document. It's called a 506. You could do a 506 crowdfunding offering, and you could use the word crowdfunding. Because this is a very interesting conversation that took place at the SEC that's in the record, that the term crowdfunding is not owned by the SEC, it's not trademarkable, it really is not descriptive of any type of security offering. For example, I could do and I'm going to get into this in a little more depth, but I could do a Regulation A crowdfunding. What does crowdfunding mean? There's a crowd and you're looking for funding. So you can actually put yourself in any one of these types of securities and call it a crowdfunding offering. But don't go to this point where it was, if you in fact do a crowdfunding offering and you start soliciting for $1,000 from an unaccredited investor and you start doing that over and over and over again, you are in violation of the law today. Do not do that today. I'll give you some things. So as you're hearing this, right, you're not getting really excited, but here's some things you can get excited about. And what you can get excited about is you can do a Regulation A offering today. You can't do it in the state of Florida, but the SEC is about to change that. They're working on it with the state regulators to make what they call a federal exemption. And what I mean by a federal exemption is that just like crowdfunding, the states don't control the offering. It's a simple matter of registering it. But with Regulation A, right now, the state of Florida will not allow you to do one because they have a thing called merit review. But if you go ahead and you file a Regulation A in the state of Georgia, and it's just, what, 5 hours up the road, you simply file with the state and offer to solicit. You file with the SEC your advertisement, and now you've used a thing called test the waters, and now you can go legally raise your capital. You can go legally start soliciting, seeing if you have any interest in what your value proposition is for your company. Now, you can't accept any money with that, but what you can is you can test the waters. It's exactly what you're doing. You're saying, hey, you can't there are other particular things that, in Matt, who's going to call in today, he's certainly going to be, he's available for post this conference today to take, more drilled specific questions from you if you want to pursue that. But the ability to go out and solicit early stage offering documents, early stage offerings, without having to prepare all the legal documentation, $15,000, $20,000 worth of legal documentation, before you even know if there's anybody interested. I mean, that's a great deal, because otherwise you're going to go through all these huge legal expense, and at the end of the day, you don't know if you're going to actually get an investor. That's a very, very, very bad value proposition for an early stage company, because all those legal fees that you went through to prepare your offering documents, and now you can't find any investors to invest, could have been used for something else. And I just think that's a great alternative right now. The International Crowdfunding Association consists of myself, Bernie Dorman, and Raul Campos. Raul Campos is a former SEC commissioner. He's currently an economic advisor to the president. He sits on numerous government committees, but the most important thing to recognize about Raul is that he is a former sitting SEC commissioner, and he still advises the SEC heavily, including on early stage capital formations, and he's also an advisor to FINRA. So let's play a game. Based on what I just said, can anybody tell me, is it legal today to do crowdfunding? Is it legal today to do crowdfunding? Go ahead.
It is if you're not asking to give out equity.
Exactly. That's exactly right. If you're not asking and you're not giving up equity, it's legal to do crowdfunding.